Hello. Yeah, we're here to for a smoke alarm to test. Emergency alarm.
Your smoke alarm?
Where's the note?
I put it up there. What'd you do with it?
There's no note.
Okay. We'll just take a quick look. Do you have any issues you want to tell us about? Problems? It's okay.
Well, nothing.
I don't
put
see
it up
any
here. I put it up last week. Just as we were coming in today.
Last week?
Yep.
There hasn't.
And I know it sat up there until Saturday.
I have to take it down. I came out of here, left here yesterday, and there was nothing there at the door yesterday.
Or we do have a missing alarm in the bedroom. Missing fire alarm. We'll get one for you.
Thank you.
There was, I don't think there ever was one in there. Because there's no mount in there, so. There never was one in there.
I'll have Jose bring one up and put it in for you. Thank you.
Okay. There was no fucking note on my fucking door. None. None. Yesterday. I left here yesterday. There was no note on my door, and normally they give a 24-hour notice. They don't give a week notice, so that's she's just lying. I left here yesterday to go to the store. Yesterday. There was no note on my fucking door. None. There was no note on my door yesterday, and I left here yesterday. None. The entire time I have lived here, which I've moved in here since 2010, the year right now is 2015, there has never been a fire alarm in the bedroom, ever. This is the only fire alarm, which is right here in the hallway. The kitchen is right here. Living room is right here. Bathroom's right there. There has never been a fire alarm in here, ever. And as a matter of fact, there is no mounts anywhere at all in here at all. There isn't even holes in the ceiling where they have screwed in mounts to put a fire alarm. None. None. They're claiming, oh gee, there's missing a fire alarm in this bedroom. There is no mount. There is no holes anywhere in the ceiling indicating that there was a fire alarm anywhere in here. There is absolutely no holes on the ceiling. None. So that was a blatant lie on their part. Like I could remove this like that, and as you can see, it's mounted. You can see the screws where it's going into the ceiling, right there. right there. So for them to sit there and put on this pretense is just ridiculous. They just... I'll put this back in after I'm done recording this vlog. But there is no... The entire 5 years I've lived here, there has never been a fire alarm in this room. Ever. Matter of fact, there's not a single hole anywhere in the ceiling whatsoever. Now, since they're claiming an inspection, which is just bullshit, because there was no notice on my door yesterday, normally when they do an inspection, they give a 24 fucking hour notice. The entire time I've lived here, they give a 24-hour notice. There is no 24-hour notice, and notice how she's claiming they put a notice on my door last week. That's just bullshit. They always give a 24-hour notice. I left here yesterday. There is no notice on my door, and I hope you noticed. I don't know if I was able to catch it or not, but when I first turned on my cell phone and started walking over towards the door, they were putting keys into my door locks. Now, I've had to change. They don't have the key. They don't have the key to this doorknob. And the reason why is because I changed. This is my doorknob, not the apartment building's doorknob. And the reason why is because I had to change out that doorknob because they have been breaking into my home repeatedly. This apartment manager is a sting-off for the Portland Police and Multnomah County Sheriffs, and they regularly break into my home illegally. She quite literally broke into my home one time, and while I was home, she just walked on in as though she owned the fucking place, and then she faked it being an accident. And I knew she was faking it when she broke into my home last year. She was faking it being an accident, and the reason why is because she had a recording device headset on. She had like a Bluetooth, it looked like a Bluetooth type headset type of a device, where it was hanging from her left ear, but it were attached to his left ear, but it was extending forward. Had like an extending stem that was like extending forward, and it like went right above her left eye, right along her eyebrow area, and it gave me the impression immediately that it was some sort of a recording device that records video and audio, and that it's designed with the intent of appearing to be some sort of a Bluetooth device. The thing that's extending forward, it doesn't go anywhere near her mouth area, so she's not actually, it's not something that she speaks into. It's just a device that, like, the stem of it goes, like, right above her eyebrow and over her left eye. And it gives the impression that there's, like, some sort of a recording device on it, and that wherever she faces, wherever she's looking and facing, that's what's being recorded. Now, I know this was a deliberate act. It wasn't no accident on her part last year when she broke into my home, because she had a Portland cop with her, and she was walking up the stairs with a Portland cop. And she was walking with a Portland cop up the stairs, and she was over on this side, and then they both started heading. They both together as a group are heading. They're heading over towards my apartment, and this cop was in uniform and has a gun. He's in a Portland Police uniform, and he has a gun, and he stopped like 5 feet from my doorway. They were walking together. I could hear them talking as they were going up the stairs last year. And they started walking towards my apartment. I can hear two of them out there, and hear two of them walking along the catwalk out there, heading in the direction of my apartment. And as they got about 5 feet from my doorway, that's where the Portland cop stopped and basically maintained an ambush spot. And then she continued to 5 feet further, walked up to my door, and she's still talking to the cop and looking right at the cop when she walked into my doorway. And then she looked at me. I was sitting right here, literally just sitting right here. That's the apartment, that female, she's the apartment manager here. She's the one aiding and abetting the Portland Police and the Multnomah County Sheriff in the sting operations that are in this apartment building. I have been, I'm quite literally a victim of a murder conspiracy. My wife and her side of the family were having sexual affairs with people in law enforcement. And these people in law enforcement decided they were going to get rid of me by setting me up for crimes, and my wife and her side of the family were aiding and abetting them. When I found out that they were using my wife's lover, Officer Eric Carlson, as a body double to impersonate me, and that he dyed his fucking hair so that he could act as a double, and I found out this was open knowledge amongst my wife's coworkers at my wife's place of employment, I tried to warn people about it. And that's when my wife, Joan Wagar, poisoned me. The Portland Police and Multnomah County Sheriff used their power of influence as a hospital to deny me any fucking form of help, and they covered up all my 911 calls, and not a single doctor would take a complaint from me, or a cop would take, not a single cop would take a complaint from me. My 911 calls were covered up. I'm in a debilitated condition, and the hospital refused to recognize the symptoms I'm suffering, refused to recognize the fact and acknowledge the fact that my wife poisoned me and that I was indeed poisoned, and they just covered it up. They just faked and pretended on their paperwork to not know what's wrong. Even though I told them my wife was having an affair with a cop, she was cheating on me, they were setting me up for crimes, and when I found out they were using my wife's lover as a double, I tried to warn people, and that's when my wife poisoned me. Now, I have been nonstop, ever since this, I have been nonstop terrorized and harassed by anybody and everybody connected to the Portland Police and Multnomah County Sheriffs. Basically anybody and everybody that is a sting op for local authorities. People that are buddies to people in law enforcement, they're sting ops. People that are relatives to people in law enforcement, they're sting ops. People that are girlfriends or past girlfriends of people in law enforcement, they're sting ops. Well, this department manager, I don't believe is a relative of anybody in law enforcement, but I'm very much under the impression she is a past girlfriend of somebody in law enforcement, and that's how she has been, how she became essentially a sting op for local authorities, and she's been basically low to mid-level sting op fucking ever since. Now, obviously, she's probably like in her 50s to 60s now. I seriously doubt she's a girlfriend to anybody at her age. But I'm under the impression that she's not a relative of anybody in law enforcement, but that she's some sort of a past girlfriend of somebody in law enforcement, and that she has been recruited into sting ops ever since. I'm under the impression from my own personal experience, almost anybody and everybody that is either a landlord or an apartment manager in Portland, Oregon, is either somebody that is a relative to people in law enforcement, or are people that are buddies and or girlfriends or past girlfriends of people in law enforcement. From my own personal understanding of apartment managers and landlords. Now, she blatantly lied because I left this apartment yesterday. There was no note on my door. They are required, here in Oregon, they're required by law to give a 24-hour notice. Now, she fucking lied. That was an outright lie on her part. And then the guy that came in to supposedly inspect the fire alarm, he's lying because he's sitting there saying, oh, there's a missing fire alarm in the bedroom. The entire 5 years I've lived here, there has never been a fire alarm in that room, ever. Ever. Now, I've just showed you the mount in the hallway. I've just showed you the mount where the fire alarm is and how it's bolted with screws. You can see the two metal screws over here on this side and over here on this side. There's one of the screws. There's another one of the screws. So there's at least 2 holes right there for that mount. Now you go into this bathroom here, or this bedroom here, which is, I don't even use this room at all. This was my daughter, Shauna Wager's room, and she's never cleared out all her shit. She still has her work uniforms over there. This is all her paraphernalia, the crap I threw in bags. She is, there is absolutely no holes anywhere on the ceiling at all. None, anywhere. Nowhere. There is no holes any place, because there has never been a fire alarm ever in this room, ever. The entire 5 years I've lived here, there has never been a fire alarm in here, ever. So for them to claim a missing fire alarm is just an outright bullshit lie. There has never been a fire alarm in this room, ever. The entire time I have lived here. I've just basically scanned with this cell phone the entire ceiling. There is no holes anywhere on that ceiling. There has never been a fire alarm, ever in that room. So basically, the apartment manager and whoever that dude is doing the inspection, I don't know who the hell that dude is. I don't know if he works for the owners of this place or if he's just a representative of Multnomah County. I don't know. They never really tell me or explain. But I hope you noticed they were trying to enter my door. They were trying to enter through my door, and they were putting keys into my lock, into my doorknob. They couldn't get it open. And the reason why is because I changed my doorknob with my own doorknob that they don't have a copy of. And I hope you noticed when I opened the door, there is no note on the door, and they're claiming an inspection. I hope you noticed that. I left here yesterday. There was no note on my door at all. And they were trying to enter my apartment, and so this video is my witness because the apartment manager outright lied and said, "Oh, she put a notice on the door a week ago." You know, well, that would be fine if she wants to do that, but they still have to give a 24-hour notice, which means 24 hours before entry, there needs to be a note on my door. And there was no note on my door yesterday. None. And technically, she's admitting there's no note on my door yesterday because she's claiming she put a note on my door a week ago. You know, if they want to give like a week or two notice, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but they still have to have that 24-hour notice the day before they actually enter as a reminder. And like I said, I left here yesterday to go to the store. I went to the bank, and then I went to the store. Now, the date today is August 19, 2015. Let me see if I can change the screen resolution so that it's easier to read.
Right now I'm changing the screen resolution on my computer so that hopefully it'll be easier to read. Now, I'm disabled, I'm partially paralyzed, I can't get up quickly from my chair. Normally when there's knocks at my door, normally it's sting ops staging shit, which is usually why and deliberately terrorizing and harassing me, which is usually why I start recording before with my cell phone before I answer the door. Now, I hope you notice that these people are sting ops. I had to change my door lock because these people on a regular basis break into my home. And it's not just the apartment manager. It's the fucking Portland cops that have the surrounding apartments. Yeah, I think it shows up. I think it shows up better now. I think you can see it easier. August 19, 2015 there. I just want to make sure. Now, I had left here yesterday. There was no note on my door. Now, and these two people that were trying to enter my apartment today, and you were using keys on my locks today, they're trying to enter my apartment and there's no note on my door. And technically, they're admitting they did not put a note on my door yesterday at all. So they're admitting that there was no note on my door yesterday. She's claiming they put a note a week or two ago, which is, if they did, then somebody took it down, because I never seen it. Either way, there's supposed to be a 24-hour notice, regardless. That is Oregon law. Now, this is another example of their illegal break-in. You need to understand that technically they just admitted they did not give me a 24-hour notice because there was no notice on the door yesterday. And technically, by them claiming, well, they put a notice on my door a week or 2 weeks ago, by them making that claim, technically they're admitting they did not put a notice on my door yesterday at all. Now, if they put any kind of a notice on my door a week or two ago, I did not get it. And for the most part, they're pretty much admitting they did not put a notice on my door yesterday. And here they are today trying to enter my apartment. Now, I hope you noticed they went to the apartment right next door. I was recording during this process. Guess what? They did not knock on that door. They just entered the apartment. They didn't even knock. They just entered that apartment. You know why? Because the Portland Police Department has that apartment to my right. The Portland Police Department has this apartment to my left. And for the most part, this apartment is vacant. There's shit in there, but it's not empty. There's furniture and stuff in there. But for the most part, the Portland Police Department just keeps that apartment empty. Because the Portland Police Department have taken control of the apartment to my right, the apartment to my left, and the apartment directly below mine. I told you I'm a victim of a sting operation. I've already established this on videos. This apartment manager and owners of this building is quite literally aiding and abetting the sting operation that has been targeting me, framing me, terrorizing me, and stalking me, and harassing me. And which is one of the reasons why I don't open my door unless I'm recording, because they quite often are staging some fucking form of street theater performance. Now, not only are they admitting they did not give me a 24-hour notice by putting a notice on my door yesterday, and here they are trying to enter my apartment, but they're claiming there's a missing fire alarm in the bedroom in there, and that's just outright bullshit and a lie. The entire 5 years I've lived here, there has never been a fire alarm in that bedroom, and there isn't even holes in the ceiling indicating that there was a mount in there anywhere. And I've just showed you, when they do put fire alarms in these apartments, they have them attached to mounts. And the mounts are screwed into the ceiling. So I just proved they're liars on both counts. Not one count, but 2 counts. So they have no 24-hour notice of entry on my door, and they were trying to enter my apartment, and they were actually using keys on my lock and doorknob. They basically knocked twice, and then they just started fitting keys into the locks. Now they can't get in because the deadbolt on there, that's still this apartment buildings, and they have keys for that deadbolt. But they don't have keys for the doorknob at all. That's my doorknob that I personally bought and put on that door. Because I'm sick and tired of people fucking walking into my apartment unannounced when I'm inside my apartment. And I know every time I leave here, they always break into my apartment. And they've done so repeatedly when I'm home. Now, last year, the apartment manager was with an armed cop when she broke into my home, and she didn't even knock. That apartment manager and a Portland officer in uniform with a fucking gun came up the stairs, and they're talking together as they're going up the stairs to the second floor here, and they just start walking towards my apartment, and they get about 5 feet from my doorway, and that's where the Portland cop stopped. He quite literally stopped out there on the catwalk about right there. And then she just continued on right to my door, and she's still talking to the cop. She's looking right at the cop and talking to the cop. And she just grabbed my doorknob. My door was unlocked. I'm inside my apartment. And she just opened the door and took a step in my apartment. And then she faked it being an accident. And then she shut the door. And then she went this way. From this point forward, she's not talking to this cop anymore. She just shuts the door, and then she walked in this direction, not saying a single word, and then she goes down the stairs over here, not saying a single word. And the entire time she's doing this, that cop maintained that ambush spot right there. That armed cop in uniform maintained the ambush position. He did not give up that ambush position until the apartment manager walked all the way along the catwalk this way and then went all the way down to the stairs, and then she got down to the ground level. Once she got to the ground, down to the ground level, that's when the Portland cop that was standing there in that ambush position gave up that ambush position, and he walked that way and then went down the stairs over there. And then they met up together at the bottom area, and they went over to the parking lot area, and they were both hanging out over there and talking for about a minute or two. And then after that, the apartment manager came back to my door. The cop is still out there standing there in the parking lot. The apartment manager came back to my door, knocked at my door. I answered my door, and she is once again claiming to apologize. Now, I knew this was a bullshit act on her. Apology is a bullshit act because she is unaware of the fact that I'm aware that she came up the stairs with an armed Portland cop, and that she's talking with the armed Portland cop as she's walking over towards my door, and that cop maintained an ambush position right there 5 feet from my doorway. And he maintained that ambush spot until she until she closed my door, and she walked all the way along the catwalk over here, and she's going down the stairs this way. Now keep in mind, when she broke into my home, she's not looking in the direction of my door. She's looking at the cop that's standing over there 5 feet away, and she's actually talking to him as she's stepping into my apartment. And then she faked it being an accident, and I immediately noticed she has some sort of a device on her left ear. It looked like some sort of a Bluetooth device, but it doesn't look like the type of device where it has an antenna thing that goes towards the mouth where you can speak into it. It looks like it has an antenna type of a protruding device on it that protrudes above her eyebrow. And it's as though it's like a recording device, like it records video and audio. And it's like wherever she faces, this device is like that protruding stem. That protruding stem is like right above her eyebrow. And whatever direction she turns, this device is recording video and audio. Now, that Portland cop that maintained an ambush position, he was standing in a parking lot out there when she came back to my door to apologize again. The fucking armed cop was standing there in the parking lot. Now, for all intents and purposes, the department manager committed an armed break-in since she's with an armed cop. She's with an armed cop, and they committed an illegal break-in into my apartment while I am home. And then she faked it being an accident, and then she walked in this direction and went down the stairs while her buddy that she went up the stairs with, the Portland armed cop, maintained an ambush position right there, 5 fucking feet from my fucking doorway. He did not even give up that spot until she walked all the way this way on a catwalk and then went all the way down the stairs, and then she got to the ground level. Once she got to the ground level, then and only then did this cop give up that ambush spot 5 feet from my doorway, and he walked that way towards the stairs over here, and then he went down the stairs there. And then they both basically converged and met up in the parking lot out here. And then 2 minutes later, the apartment manager's at my door again, pretending to apologize, and the Portland cop that was maintaining this ambush spot, he was just standing out there in the parking lot, waiting for her to get done with this bullshit apology. Now, for all intents and purposes, that was an armed break-in. The apartment manager deliberately and intentionally was recording. She was wearing and using a recording device headset when she committed this break-in, and she was talking with an armed Portland cop and is with an armed Portland cop when she broke into my home while I'm inside here. And then she faked it being an accident, shut my door, and then she's not talking any longer to the cop that's 5 feet from my doorway. She just shut my door, and then from this point forward, she's no longer talking, and she just heads this way, and then goes down the stairs. Why doesn't she go that way with the Portland cop that she's hanging out with? Because she fully expected me to bolt out the door to complain and to step right into an ambush with an armed cop. That's why. That's what she expected me to do. That's what she was trying to cause me to do. If I'd have stepped out there to complain, I would have been ambushed and fucking shot by her fucking buddy, a Portland police officer. So that was a armed break-in by these people with the intent of killing me off. Ever since this incident, the Portland Police Department has used their fascist police powers to take over the department to my right, the department to my left, department to very below mine, and they fill these apartments up with Portland officers and with their civilian operatives. Now, the Portland cop that taken over this apartment, he's driving a red pickup truck. He has death threat decals on that pickup truck. And I already have him on video going to that red pickup truck and driving away with it while he's wearing his Portland Police uniform. I also have video of these Portland cops that have taken over the apartment to my right, coming out of that apartment, walking right in front of my apartment. They get in front of this apartment, and without any knocking or anything, they just walk right into that apartment. And then they sit in that apartment 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then they come out of that apartment. They walk right in front of my apartment. They go over to the apartment right next to my right, and then they go inside. And for the most part, they hang out in that apartment. But let's put it this way. They've already demonstrated to my face and for my cell phone video camera that it's Portland cops in control of that apartment to my right. And they're demonstrating and flaunting the fact that they have control of this apartment as well as that apartment. So they basically have me and my apartment sandwiched, literally. And they're flaunting it, they demonstrate it, they want me to know, they intentionally make it known. They'll literally pound on my wall when they're in that apartment, and then they'll come out of that apartment. They'll walk right in front of my apartment. They'll go into this apartment, and then they'll pound on this wall. And I have a video of that as well. Now, I've just caught the apartment manager and whoever this person is that's doing the inspections. I don't know if he represents Multnomah County, if he's some sort of a Multnomah County inspector, or if he's just some sort of a private employee that represents the owner of the building. I don't know, but he's been one of the main people that does inspections here. Ever since I've lived here. He's usually the one that comes in to check the fire alarm. He'll just come in and push the button just to make sure that the fire alarm works. And the entire 5 years I've lived here, there's only been one fire alarm here. Only one. And I've just... the fact that they're pretending that there's a missing fire alarm, that's just another outright fucking lie on their fucking part. Now, you have to understand, they're sting ops. They're fucking sting ops, man. They don't even give a fuck if I know. I'm literally just caught them in 2 lies. Literally. They come to my door with the bullshit intent of an inspection. They don't even put a 24-hour notice on my door. And here they are slapping keys in my doorknob, and they're fucking admitting they did not put a notice on my door yesterday. And I flat out told them I left here yesterday. There was no note on my door yesterday. If they put a notice on my door sooner and I just did it, somebody must have took it down because I had never seen it. But there sure as hell was no notice on my door yesterday, and I flat out said that. And guess what? They're pretty much agreeing with me. They're admitting they did not put a notice on my door yesterday. They're not claiming they did. They're claiming they put a notice on my door, what, a week or 2 ago? So technically they're admitting they did not put a notice on my door yesterday. They're admitting to that. They're supposed to give a 24-hour notice before entry. Now, I basically caught them in 2 lies. They did not give a 24-hour notice. They're claiming they gave notice, but they're claiming their notice was like a week or 2 ago. Well, I never saw that notice. As a matter of fact, I can go out there right now and just get video of everybody's doors out there. There is no notices on anybody's doors. And here they are going door to door, and they're just entering apartments. I basically just caught them in two lies. No 24-hour notice. They gave no 24-hour notice, and they're lying and pretending on their own paperwork that there's a missing fire alarm. That's an outright lie on their part, because I just proved that there has never been a fire alarm in that bedroom ever. The entire fucking 5 years I've lived here. There has never been a fire alarm, a second fire alarm in this apartment. There's always been only one. Only one fire alarm, and that's it. There has never been another fire alarm in this apartment, ever. And that's the dude each and every year that comes in and checks the fire alarm. That's the first time he's ever came into my apartment to check the fire alarms, and he's actually entering the bedroom and pretending now that there's a missing fire alarm in the bedroom, which is just bullshit. There was never a fire alarm in the bedroom, and he never went into the bedroom ever, all in the entire 5 years that I've lived here. He's never once entered the bedroom ever to look for a fire alarm, ever. So he's just putting on a bullshit act and a bullshit pretense, and they're caught in the act of it. If they want to pretend that there was a fire alarm in the bedroom, and if they want to pretend it's missing, well, I just proved to you there never has been a fire alarm in the bedroom, because there is no holes for the there's no mounts, and there's no holes even in the ceiling indicating that they had a mount in there for a fire alarm. There is literally 0 holes in that ceiling. None. Because there was never a fire alarm. So this is the reason why when I answer my door, I have to record, because I'm a target of a sting, and they're constantly staging shit. This apartment manager has been sending brats to my door, and the apartment manager will hang out there in the courtyard, and she just did this last earlier this month. Literally, earlier this month, she was out there about 60 feet out in the courtyard, hiding behind one of the trees out there. And she sent a fucking brat to knock at my fucking door. And she did this at dusk. It's not nighttime yet, but it's not daytime. The sun is just going down, and it's at dusk. And she was over there 60 feet out in the courtyard, hiding behind a tree, and she had a camera in her hand. So she set a brat at my door. She had a small kid knocking at my door at dusk. And the apartment manager was out there in the courtyard 60 feet away with a fucking camera in her hand. She came out of her hiding spot and was heading in this direction towards that kid right after I shut the door. But I opened the door again like 6-7 seconds after I shut it, knowing, well, gee, I know somebody's sending these brats to my door, so I opened the door again to try to find out, okay, who the hell is sending these brats to my door? And that's when I noticed the apartment manager came out of her hiding spot, and she was heading literally in this direction, 60 feet from out there in the courtyard. She was literally hiding behind one of the trees, and she had a fucking camera in her goddamn hands. Now, they just made up 2 fucking lies. They're faking and pretending there's a 24-hour notice on my door when there isn't. And for the most part, they're actually admitting there is no 24-hour notice of entry. In Oregon, by law, they have to give a 24-hour notice. If they want to give a 2-week notice, 2 weeks in advance, that's fine, but they still have to put the 24-hour notice on the door the day before they enter. Now, they only knock twice. I'm not able, literally, by the time I grabbed my cell phone, as soon as they knocked the first time, I had to grab my cell phone, and then I had to go over to get my cane. It's not easy for me to walk. I'm disabled. I'm partially paralyzed. And then I had to walk over to the door. By the time I got to my cane, they had knocked twice. By the time I got to my cane. And as I'm walking over towards the door, that's when I can hear them putting the keys in the door lock to enter the apartment. Now, they can't get in because I've changed the door. I've changed the door lock. The doorknob is my doorknob, not this apartment building's doorknob. Because I got tired of these people fucking breaking into my goddamn fucking home when I'm not here. Every time I go grocery shopping, they break into my home. Every fucking time they tamper with my foods. I had to buy a refrigerator, my own private refrigerator. I ordered this refrigerator over the internet. I had to buy my own private refrigerator so I could put a fucking lock on it. These latching cables and the lock I had to buy separately. I bought the refrigerator, and then I bought the lock separately, also over the internet. And I had to go to these extreme measures because I couldn't keep my foods in the normal refrigerator that comes with the apartment, because they're fucking tampering with my foods. They're poisoning my foods. The whole time I'm surrounded by fucking Portland cops. The whole time these cops were palling around and sleeping around with my wife and my wife's sister and my wife's daughters. My wife was sleeping around with Officer Eric Carlson and his partners. Well, my wife's daughters also was sleeping around with Officer Eric Carlson and his partners. While my wife, Joan Wager, was sleeping around with Officer Eric Carlson of the Portland Police Department, my wife's daughter, Megan Wager, was sleeping around with Officer Eric Carlson's partner, David. And Megan Wager got pregnant by David. Megan Wager got pregnant by Officer Eric Carlson's partner, David. So my wife and my wife's sister, my wife's side of the family, and my wife's daughters were palling around and sleeping around with Portland cops and with Multnomah County sheriffs. And they were having fun using sting-type operations to set me up for crimes in order to get rid of me. And it was my wife, Joan Wager's lover, Officer Eric Carlson, that was acting as a double to impersonate me. He was literally dressing up like me. He dyed his hair blonde like mine. And he was staging and committing crimes and acting like a criminal while his harassed girlfriends and his partners take side shots and back shots of him, photogenic side shots and photogenic back shots of him while he's dressed up like me and has his hair dyed like mine. And each and every time he dyed his hair blonde to impersonate me, he would just give himself a butch right after that. Cops are known to have butches now, aren't they? Well, now you know one of the reasons why cops always butch their hair. Because they regularly act as doubles of the people they're framing. And they'll literally dye their hair the same color as the person they're framing so that they could act as a double. And then they just cut off the dyed hair. And that's what Officer Eric Carlson was doing. And this is how they were setting me up for crimes. Well, this apartment manager here is fucking aiding and abetting these goddamn people. She is a sting-op. I don't believe she's a relative to people in law enforcement. Most sting-ops tend to be relatives or longtime buddies to people in law enforcement or girlfriends or past girlfriends to people in law enforcement. And I'm under the impression that the apartment manager, at some time in her adult life, she just became a girlfriend to somebody in law enforcement, and as a result, she became recruited into sting operations, and she has been a sting-op for authorities ever since. Now, I can usually peg the type. I can tell if they're a lifetime sting-op, where they spend their whole damn lives being basically sting-ops, or whether they're just average people that end up becoming recruited into sting-ops, and then from that point forward, they just stay and remain sting-ops. The department manager fits the latter description, where I'm under the impression that she hasn't been a lifetime sting-op. She was just, for the most part, a normal person until she got hooked up to law enforcement, probably in her 20s and or 30s, probably through some sexual affair or whatnot through people in law enforcement, and as a result, she's been a sting-op ever since, which would explain why and how she got the job as an apartment manager. Portland Police and Multnomah County Sheriffs usually have their civilian buddies or their civilian relatives or their civilian girlfriends get jobs as apartment managers or as landlords. It's usually relatives of people in law enforcement that are landlords. It's usually the low-level to low to mid-level sting-ops that usually get jobs mostly as apartment managers. They don't really hide the fact from me that at all that I'm being set up by them. They don't really care if I know. The fact that they're faking a notice on my door. There is no notice on my door. I left here yesterday. There was no notice on my door at all. And today, here they are trying to enter my apartment. This is the reason why I had to change my lock on my door, because they repeatedly break it. Not only did I change my lock on my door with my own money, buying my own door lock, my own doorknob that I can lock, that I'm the only one that has a key to, but I had to buy my own fucking refrigerator so that I can lock up my fucking foods. I'm a victim and a witness to a murder conspiracy. I am not the only person that my wife and her side of the family and the Portland police officers they were palling around with and sleeping around with. I am not their only victim. They were quite literally targeting everybody on my side of the family, and they were targeting pretty much all the male members of my wife's side of the family as well. And I'm not the only one they were poisoning. They weren't just poisoning me. The same time my wife poisoned me was the same time my wife's father was severely debilitated and poisoned, and he was in the hospital and he never came out alive. So I wasn't the only family member that was debilitated from being poisoned. There's multiple family members that were males that were poisoned and debilitated and bedridden, while the female members of my wife's side of the family were palling around with and sleeping around with cops. Officer Eric Carlson and his partners, 2 weeks after my wife poisoned me, they were referring to her by the nickname Mrs. Dash. Officer Eric Carlson and his partner, Officer John Ray, openly referred to my wife, Joan Wager, by the nickname Mrs. Dash, and they did so in love letters. No 24-hour notice on my door. And they're pretending there's a missing fire alarm when there isn't a missing fire alarm. The entire 5 years I've lived here, there has only been one fire alarm in this apartment, and that's the one in the hallway. The bedroom doesn't even have a mount or holes in the ceiling indicating that there ever was a mount for a fire alarm in that room. So the entire 5 years I've lived here, there has never been a fire alarm in that room, which means there is no missing anything. Nothing's missing. But they obviously want to fake and pretend things are missing. Now, the Portland Police and Multnomah County Sheriff, they're known to use fire alarms. They have that have the ability to record video and audio. They like to illegally record people, and they use fire alarms to do that shit. Which would explain why they now want to slap an extra fire alarm in my apartment, of which never has been in my apartment for 5 fucking years. But now you know why. This is the reason why when I record a vlog, I don't bother doing a selfie at all. Don't even bother. I just aim my phone at the doorway here, and at the front of my apartment here, because usually when I record a vlog, they usually stage something. Now this particular time, they staged this so-called bullshit inspection before I even started recording the vlog. Now they only knocked twice before they started slapping a key into my doorknob and into my deadbolt. They were able to unlock my deadbolt, but they couldn't unlock my doorknob because it's my doorknob. I'm the only one that has the keys to it. Now I basically, they're openly hostile to me. The department manager is. She noticed right away I'm holding my cell phone. They noticed right away I'm holding my cell phone. So that she knows damn well I'm recording with my cell phone, of which I have a right to do. I'm inside my apartment. I have a right to record anybody that knocks at my fucking door. I'm a victim of a murder conspiracy. I've already reported it publicly. I've reported authorities, but authorities just cover it up. Authorities pretend there is no 911 calls by me. The authorities pretend nothing by me is reported. So, which is why I have to report these crimes publicly, because police and county sheriffs do not take complaints from me at all. Technically, this is illegal harassment. Technically, I know damn well they're recording when they do this shit. Just because it's not obvious doesn't change the fact. They're still recording. I know they're recording. The fact that, these are the extreme measures I have to take. They break into my apartment every fucking time I leave here. Every time. And that's the reason why I put on a new door lock, because I'm tired of people. I know damn well the department manager gave the Portland Police a copy of my apartment key. So the Portland cops that are surrounding my apartment, they enter my apartment every fucking time I leave here. And they immediately tamper with my foods. Now that flimsy lock, obviously I'm sure law enforcement could easily pick that lock very easily, but these are the safety measures I have to take. Usually at night, I have to guard my foods, and usually at night, I'll turn this refrigerator around so that the door of the refrigerator is facing the wall, so that nobody can actually, when I'm asleep, nobody can mess with it without waking me up. Because I don't necessarily trust that lock that's on that refrigerator. I don't necessarily trust the lock that's on the doorknob either, because I know damn well law enforcement can pretty much get in through any lock. So, and I've already established on video I'm surrounded by Portland cops. I'm quite literally a victim of a sting operation, and there's nobody that cares. Nobody takes complaints on sting operations. There's too damn many people in high-level positions that aid and abet law enforcement in sting operations. And in this circumstance, the very apartment manager and the very owners of this building are aiding and abetting these sting operatives. Literally aiding and abetting these goddamn criminals. The apartment manager is quite literally aiding and abetting the Portland cops that are surrounding my apartment.